everybody? How is everybody tonight? It is the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour here on GeForce TV. Not too much in terms of news to go over tonight, so we'll have a little bit of a different show once again. We're still waiting for a lot of news to break. It's in that waiting period, but when it does come, we know that there will be quite a bit of it. Obviously, there's some fun stuff to look into, potentially. We had some news this past week with the announcement that we're going to see in a Xfinity Series race that will have NASCAR Pinty Series driver Dexter Stacy in the attendance. Should be able to make this race in the 66. I don't know how much in terms of the field there's going to be. We'll talk about Dexter's foray into the series previously. And then we will also talk about the NASCAR Pinty Series in terms of our stars being at Daytona. Basically dating back to 2007, we're going to take a look and see what has taken place. YTW, nice to see you, buddy. Had to put my dad out in timeout because he was spamming the chat with all these what ifs. But Jim Haynes, nice to see you in. I did not know that WeatherTech Dodge was on the wall in Charlotte at the NASCAR Hall. Yep, that's a new feature for this year. LP Dumoulin's WeatherTech Dodge featured on in the front entranceway as part of the display for the full year. It's not going to be forever. It is just for the full year. Hopefully, we'll be able to see the 96 of Marc-Antoine Cameron also added into the lineup. I think eventually would be great. It is a little odd getting the 2021 paint scheme out there and 2021 champion in 2022, but obviously they had to prepare it, and Dumoulin Competition putting that car out there is absolutely great. Yeah, Tim, winter does suck. I'm not a fan of this weather at all. As I was saying to my buddy Green today, I'm a big guy, and me and ice don't really work well together. We have a bad relationship, and when I fall, it hurts. So, Sandy, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. That's something for Clinton tomorrow. He would be the one that'd be able to answer that question as to why the schedule is not out yet. Same thing across the board with any questions as to why certain things aren't out. I'm not a part of that, so I don't know. But definitely, I'm sure you'd be able to pose that question to him, and he definitely figure that out for you. He would definitely know. But we're here for the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour here on GeForce TV. A little bit late getting to everything. We had a little bit of a late start, but we're here because we've got some great news that Dexter Stacy is going to drive for MBM Motorsports at the Xfinity Series race, and he joins Jason White. Jason White's going to be running in two races once again this week, hopefully. And the key word is hopefully, because even though it was originally believed that he's going to be racing the Truck Series, the Rion Brothers team had a major fire at their race shop, and unfortunately we don't really know the extent of what the damage is going to be. The shop sounds as if it could be potentially a complete write-off, and that goes with their equipment as well. So that's obviously very disappointing news for our good buddy Jason White. Jason has been one of those drivers that has competed at Daytona in several different forms already, and we're going to obviously talk about different things regarding that schedule. Obviously the ARCA Menard Series, the Truck Series, Xfinity, and Cup are all going to be there. We're going to go in and dive into how Pinty Series have typically done, drivers that have gone down and participated in those events. And then, of course, the other question will be, yeah, Jim says, if you don't like cold, snow, and ice, you may be living in a not fun during cold season area. Um, I just don't like it ever. Never have, never will. Um, and that's probably never going to change. Living in Canada is one thing, but one thing you have to remember is that we've had it really easy the last couple of years. So when it's not that cold, I'm completely unhappy. And also, I have bad reactions when it's cold outside. You know, I'm always sneezing. It's always because everybody turns their heat on, which ruins everything for me. Um, so, but Dexter Stacey, as we talk about, this is big for him and big news for a guy like him to be able to get an opportunity to race for MBM Motorsports, which typically does do pretty well on those courses. Typically, the road course or the super speedway tracks, MBM Motorsports is pretty good. But I personally, like I said, don't like it. I don't like being around the cold. One thing that we do know, though, is that the Clash is coming up this upcoming weekend. I'm not really overall interested. I'm more about the Canadian racing scene right now. I'm really more excited to see what we see coming up. But Jason White obviously going to be running the ARCA Menard Series and the Truck Series. And then, of course, we can fingers crossed because we don't really know the full extent of the damage there for Rayon Brothers Racing. But we know Jason will definitely put a good fourth effort in. And Rayon Brothers are really beloved in the garage. So I would expect that there's going to be some people that will try and help them out. And, you know, if we look forward, once Daytona is over, you've still got several months until we go racing here in Canada. So it's brutal, man. This off season is just so long. And, there's really not a good way we can extend it. I mean, we've talked about potentially, hey, could we do an ice race? Could we do a snow race? From what people have been telling me that are pretty well adept in those areas, said it's not really doable. Not with the Pinty's cars, at least. Which is a little disappointing to hear, but at the end of the day, you'd basically do an ice race, and then you'd wait 4 months for the next race. I mean, the only way I could see them doing this, something like that, would be like an invitational. And invitationals are really okay, but they don't offer anything. So, and I can't be the only one that would think that it would suck to be a fan having to stand out in the freezing cold. Watching the race. So, but again, big news for Dexter Stacey. Also some other news. Marc-Antoine Cameron was at GP3R, did participate in race at the Nitro Circuit. He wasn't involved in the Nitro Rallycross. He was one of the guys that was named as somebody you could vote in. But as much as I asked about it. It seems like it was a really great event. Lots of coverage, lots of fans, lots of work. Good buddy Joe Robinson was out there and helping put that together. Dominic Fougere, great person, knows exactly what Nitro Rallycross would bring. And at the end of the day, very successful. Got some coverage out there. There should be, I believe, an actual broadcast of that event. And then, of course, some, I guess, side news is that Brian Ellis, and that might be a name that people don't remember, Brian Ellis, championship crew chief with Andrew Ranger, he's coming back to the NASCAR Pinty Series, and it was announced that he's going to be he's going to be spearheading the MBS Motorsports team this year. Jay Fredericks, who is the crew chief for MBS Motorsports, not able to attend every race, so they've made that move. And Jay's still involved in the team, still part of the team, and we're really glad to see Jay still being a part of them. But heading into next year, they'll have a bit of a change. And having a name like Brian Ellis, he hasn't been in the series for a while. It is something that we'll see if that years away make a difference. But I know Brian's been itching to get back behind the pit box, and I think MBS Motorsports is taking a really good gamble here. I think they're taking a really good chance on a guy who's been successful in this series before, and that's the right way to go about it. Jim Haynes says, I don't think Cam said he liked Quebec City temps in the summer, and here in the States in the Southeast it can get ugly in the summer for a good part of the summer, then put on a Nomex suit, etc. I'm not really a fan of too high and too low, man. I like my in-betweens, Jim. I like my kind of warm that I can breathe. The biggest thing you have to remember is humidity, right? If humidity gets involved, that's when things go crazy. If it's just pure heat, I'm good. But when it's humid, that's when things get crazy. That's when things get bad. Same with when we talk about when things are too cold and you can't really breathe. Not so great. I can do the zeros I'm okay with. I'm okay with the 17, 18, 19, 20 degrees. When we get up to like 44, which is what it was last year at GP3R, that was a little tough, standing on the on all the concrete and the pavement. I think it was all asphalt too, so you're just radiating heat the entire day, and there was no shade. So that I could do without next year for sure. And then it's tough because now I got the deal with the allergies and stuff too. John Fletcher. Nice to see John Fletcher in the chat. Somebody who knows all about this. Not a gamble. Brian will make an impact immediately. He's going to get his research, man. I mean, I've been talking with Brian, and Brian's he's certainly opinionated, and I appreciate that. I do. And I'm really excited to see what he does, for sure. Because I'm sure he's not going to put up with a lot of crap either, which, let's be honest, series needs that. They need somebody who's not going to let them get away with stuff. Riegser, apparently my area is going to have negative 40 wind chill. Oh, that's disgusting. Don't even tell me that. Ugh. Riegser says, and also, yes, go Dexter, having high hopes for him this Pinty season if he runs full-time, of course. Yeah, I don't know. I would have expected that we would have started to get some announcements from EHR. They made that announcement last year with Ray and Raphael around this. It was January 28th that they made that announcement. And we really haven't gotten any announcement around anybody lately. So Joe Robinson does say that there is stuff potentially coming. There's news out there. I don't know what it is. People have been very quiet this offseason. Very, very quiet. Jim Haynes says, I don't see ice racing in the Pinty thing as a winner unless it was a driver only in some type of... It would, yes. Borrowed cars would be the way to go about it. I said before, Olivia Whistle and her father, Jared Whistle, they run the ice racing out in Calgary. That would be an opportunity to do something because they have it set up that you can just borrow. EHR has not confirmed that stuff yet, so whatever you've heard, you got to keep to yourself, right? Because they've only confirmed one car right now, and that would be Alex Canet for 2 seasons. Yeah, so I don't know what Dexter's plans are. I didn't know that he had any intention of running at Daytona, but now all of a sudden he's going to have the opportunity to be in there. And if you go back and we'll take a look at the statistics, Dexter has not made races at Daytona in February. I did take records and take a look back at the main 4 NASCAR series that have run since 2007 at Daytona in these I guess we call it spring, even though it's not really spring, the February race. And we're going to take a look. I want to thank Al actually for passing that on as the idea for this episode, because it's interesting to know. I mean, we've had a lot of time for Pinty Series drivers to be featured in some of these series, and it's a very interesting kind of grouping of drivers that we have and we have not had. And then, of course, we want to get into the conversation of who could be somebody that we can see in the future race at either 1, 2, 3, or right to the top level at the Daytona 500. It's really kind of a very, I want to say it's been kind of sad. Going through from 2007, you would have expected that we would have had a lot of people that have competed. Not really. And not of recent note. That's the other thing. We haven't had the opportunities to get people that can run year in and year out. Jim Haynes says it's spring in Florida, as not yet 90 degrees with 90% humidity yet. Ugh. Still better than what it is right now, man. Up here, snow. It's not even that bad where I live with snow, but it was icy, and I don't like ice. I don't like walking around where I'm not sure if I'm gonna slip. That's the one thing I told you before, man. Big guys, we fall, and when we fall hard. So that's the reality around that. Let's take a look at what we've got first off. Let's take a quick look at the NASCAR Pinty Series schedule for 2023. That was announced already. If you haven't seen it already, it was confirmed that we're going to see once again, the CTMP schedule was released today. And you got to be really pumped because you're going to see, once again, I mean, not that we'd be really surprised that we'd see any sort of difference here, but tickets are on sale at CTMP right now for your 2023 season. You have your Castro Victoria Day Speed Fest once again from May 19th to the 21st with the NASCAR Pinty Series as the headliner. They're not the only ones, of course, this season. You're going to see, of course, a bit more. Now, the schedule, I'm just going to see if their event schedule is actually posted. It doesn't look like it is. But they've announced that combining, you're going to have, once again, the NASCAR Pinty Series, Sports Car Championship, Canada, M-Zone Radical Cup Canada, and the Super Production Challenge once again. So those are back for 2023 eBay Motors 200 once again. So luckily, nice to see that eBay Motors once again is going to be back as the title sponsor for our CTMP race on May 21st. And of course, it's not the only race that you're going to see out there Labor Day Sprints weekend as well. September 1st to the 3rd. WeatherTech 200 still listed as the name. 4 series that are going to join them in the Labor Day Sprints. That's a replacement. You're going to see Nissan Sentra Cup and the Toyo Tires F1600s joining as well, of course. So we've got those 2 races already listed on CTMP's website. Hopefully be able to see a couple more scheduled races with their announcements as we head on in this off season. So, yes, a lot of work was done here, a lot of research, and we're going to go and take a look at what we've got here. Terry Dewey in the chat, nice to see you, my friend. Jim Haynes, I was a young when Earl Ross was in Cup and actually won a race. And back then, listened to the radio when he did. And yeah, things have changed quite a bit. And you would say Earl Ross being one of those names that, are we ever going to get that again? I mean, Ron Fellows has been the closest. Let's be honest. We've got a long ways to go if we want to see some Canadians competing for race wins. Mario Gosselin for a good period of time was as well. Let's take a look, though. We've had Canadian Pinty Series drivers that have competed in NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. NASCAR Pinty Series drivers have competed at Daytona in the spring race. Let's take a look at the ARCA races. And if you look in 2007, we did not have anybody. The late Pierre Bourque finished 24th in his attempt. This was interesting to note. That same year, Andrew Ranger had an opportunity to make the race in a second. This was a second Mario Gosselin car, and he did not qualify for the race. Mario Gosselin, of course, while being a big representation in the Pinty Series, I don't believe he's actually made a start. So Mario Gosselin is not in this as a competitor, okay? Definitely team owner, definitely been a part of these races at Daytona, but he's not featured because he wasn't a Pinty Series driver as far as I know. Maybe he made one start. I'd have to go way back and check, but on the hollow of it, I don't believe Mario Gosselin ever did. J.R. Fitzpatrick in ARCA finished dead last. He was driving for James Hilton in 2009. We didn't get anybody in 2010. Then a name that maybe some people have forgotten, Marie-Ève Defoe, who did compete in the Pinty Series. 2011 finished 28th place. 2012 he had nobody. And Dexter Stacey, the last time he actually made the races at Daytona was in this ARCA race in 2013. He finished in 20th place. And this was an interesting note as well. Andrew Gressel, who is not a Pinty Series driver, but I had to put him in there. An APC regular. Andrew Gressel didn't qualify. It was the first non-qualifying driver in 2013. But he's an APC regular, and he attempted to make the race in 2014. Marie-Ève once again finishing, but she finished 18th, a little bit better than her first attempt. Cole Powell made several starts. He's made 3, 2014, 2015, and 2016, 39th, 20th, and 34th. The best result for a Canadian since 2007 from the Pinty Series only, mind you. I'm not talking about Mario Gosselin or Terry Jones here. Sarah Cornett Ching. She made some starts when she was out west in the series. 31st, but then 11th place for Sarah Cornett Ching. She did run a full season in ARCA, driving the Dickies and number 2, I believe it was. Then Cole Powell, of course, he was involved in the big wreck in 2016, 2017, 2018. Nobody. Then Jason White, our savior, Racing Jason. He took to the track in 2019. He finished in 16th place for Andy Hellenberg. Had a great run in 2020, finished 6th to set the best finish since 2007 of a Pinty Series driver in the ARCA Racing Series. 14th and 17th, but he will be back in 2023 for Hellenberg Racing once again. Not sure if he's going to run the number 11 or the number 12, but Jason White could be up there once again as an ARCA Menard Series driver that could do something in this series. Now, I'd love to see more names like JP Bergeron. Love to see Marc-Antoine Camerand or Andrew Ranger, Kevin Lacroix. I'd love to see some of these guys be able to go in and try the high banks, see what they could do. Obviously, Trayton Lapsovich, I think you get Caden Lapsovich an opportunity. I mean, he is going to be working as a crew chief for Venturini Motorsports. Love to see if Venturini could put him into a car at least once, just for Caden to show off how good he is. So our ARCA results, they're a little bit right? Kind of in the middle, but Jason White's really brought them up, really stabilized the results. And I think one of the things that maybe we didn't think that Jason would be able to do some of this, because in his Pinty's results, they're not fantastic. He's not running top 5 every race. He's not running top 10 every race. But Racing Jason likes to race, so he's going to be going back once again this year. And Jason White with Hellenberg, definitely, I mean, you look at the 4 races that he's run so far, he's didn't finish worse than 17th. So in a field that typically has 36 to 39 cars, that's pretty good. So we'll see what Racing Jason can do once again. Jim Haynes says, since they made the franchise system, the deck is stacked against an outsider making almost any racing cup. It's absolutely true. It's tough because you don't really have any rentals anymore either. You've got your basic MBM Motorsports, you've got Rick Ware Racing, and that's about it. There's not really anywhere else that you can go for the Cup Series unless you're trying to bring a new team in, and that doesn't really work out ever. So we'll have to take a look and see where that goes for sure. Definitely not the best idea, I think, to go out there and try and bring a new team. But if there's somebody that I could see potentially trying his luck at getting a rental, like a Venturini car for some of his drivers, I think J.C. Payet would be somebody that would try it out. Definitely. In the Truck Series, well, we didn't really fare too well either, but there is some highlights in here. We'll take a look and we go back to 2007. We didn't have anybody. 2008, we didn't have anybody either. But J.R. Fitzpatrick did the best job for a Canadian from the NASCAR Pinty Series. We're not talking just Canadians. We're talking about guys that have run in the Pinty Series. 4th place for TRG Motorsports. What was such a highlight, I was really hoping that would lead to something for J.R. Fitzpatrick, and unfortunately did not. One of the things I was a little surprised with is that I did not find anything for Pete Shepard. It may have been before 2007 that Pete Shepard actually did run. But J.R. Fitzpatrick, 4th place. Didn't get back until 2012, and in that case, he only finished 34th. Tough finish there for him. But better, I guess, than Derek White. Our guy, Derek White, didn't qualify for the truck race in 2012. We didn't get anybody back for 2012, 2013, 2014. Cameron Haley has made some Pinty starts. He's made them out west, so that's why we can cover him. 23rd and 25th, and I thought that Cameron Haley would have been somebody who would have done really well on these plate races, but unfortunately not. I thought it would be lower, so I checked that there were 33, 36 cars in the last 4 races. You were pretty close. 36, okay, so still about halfway, right, Tim? It's not the best, and we also have to remember too, Tim, fields are not what they were in ARCA come 2004, 2005. When we were like 64 cars trying to qualify, 60 cars, it's not happening, right? 36 and maybe, I don't know, Tim, I'd say 10 are really competitive. The rest is kind of, they are what they are in ARCA. Jim Haynes says, back in the day, Earl Ross had Carling, which was a pretty good sponsor in that for that era. It's true. The biggest issues, we don't have those, right? Closest I think we had was basically Alex LeBay, which we'll get to. Jason White didn't qualify in 2019. It was actually 39th, I believe, of 40. Jason White finished 10th, though, to back it up the year later for Rayone Brothers Racing. And that's... I mean, we have to remember one thing, too, here, is that the fields have gotten smaller, which is one thing I had to... we have to remember with Jason White running in these. Rayone Brothers is not a top running truck. That's just the truth. So to come back and finish in the top 10 was absolutely huge. Then we got Rafael Lessard that same year and Kyle Busch Motorsports finishing 20th place. Jason White 20th again in 21st. I mean, finishing in 20th in 2021 and 2022. Rafael Lessard finishing 23rd. Jason White, of course, is supposed to be entered. We don't know what's going to happen after the big fire at Rayone Brothers Racing. Really disappointing news to see that. But again, more guys in the truck series. And a lot more recently, obviously, Jason White and Rafael Lessard are those main reasons. This year, though, as far as we only know, we only got Jason White from the NASCAR Pinty Series. But, of course, we're going to take this quick turn into the Xfinity Series. And the Xfinity Series, this is an interesting one as well because we take a look in nobody in 2007. Then you got the Castro Kid, DJ Kennington. He's really the majority of this list with Alex LeBay, Dexter Stacy as well. DJ Kennington, 33rd. Well, Tim, you're definitely right. He says, I'm sure Lessard expected a better finish in a KBM truck. Lessard, I believe, was involved in a wreck. He started, I think, 5th in that race, if I'm not mistaken. So or maybe in the year after that he started 5th. But I think Lessard's whole season in 2020 wishes that it went better for being in KBM equipment. Jim Haynes, most of the ARCA teams now are rent-a-race service deal, where 20 years ago you had a lot of family teams that would come to Daytona only. You had so much competition in the ARCA Menard Series 20 years ago. Now it is really poor. Every year it's essentially Venturini versus that's it. It's basically Venturini versus. And I love Venturini Motorsports, but that's not a racing series. It can't be. I don't personally believe that the Menard Series even needs to go to Daytona anymore. I don't see the benefit. I understand that most of the Toyota teams come in through there. The development teams come in through there. But at the end of the day, the racing just has not been very good as of the last couple of years. 100% just a miss. DJ Kennington, 33rd and 17th. That's for Randy McDonald's equipment. 2010, we didn't get anybody, but J.R. Fitzpatrick did get an opportunity. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out. Finished in 42nd place. I believe he was involved in an accident. Then we didn't get anybody in 2012. Dexter Stacy tried in 2013. Didn't get him there either. 2014, nothing either. Derek White finished 22nd, which was pretty good for him. I believe that was an MDM number 40 car. Martin Waugh involved in an accident. Unfortunately, I would have liked to see what Martin could have done a little bit more. Martin was somebody who I think had a little bit more in the tank. The Gamache Truck Center, number 90. Derek White in 2016, he failed to make the race. And then we started to get to the little more consistency. From basically 2018 till, 2021, we had somebody in the race. Alex LeBay finished 24th in his first shot. DJ Kennington, remember he drove that BJ McLeod 99 with Lord Co on it. I would like to see DJ again get an opportunity because those Xfinity races are also unpredictable. It's got a young family, though, so I'm not sure if that's something that they're interested in. Alex LeBay did do a great job for us, though. He did get the best finish at 10th place. But the last 2 years of Alex LeBay just might want to skip Daytona in February because he finished last in 2021, and he didn't even make the race last year, which was a heartbreaker. So Dexter Stacy's going to be carrying the banner for us this year. Unless Rafael Lessard gets an opportunity and we didn't know about it, Alex LeBay, no news has been made about what he's going to do this year. Hard to say. Tim Gerald says, gotta love Mullins racing on the Super Speedway. Absolutely love Willie Mullins' team. And they're ones that they struggled a lot in the first couple of years, and they started to get a little bit better. They've been involved in wrecks the last couple of years, so it sucks that they kind of have had that. Lucas Trauman, ARCA has been reduced to a pipeline. It's unfortunately. Yeah, it sucks. It used to be good, man. I could go on a rant about ARCA. I mean, honestly, I don't. It's got the East and the West. It doesn't need 3 series anymore. It needs 1. And that might not be a popular opinion, but you're losing out. Like, they just lost Brancati from the West series. They've essentially lost most of McAnally's from the West. You don't have anything there anymore. And the reality is the majority of guys that have gone through that system, you're still not getting the idea, which was to get funding for these guys, and there's not funding happening. I mean, Gainbridge sponsored Raja Caruth and Nick Sanchez last year. Gainbridge is going to continue, but they're going to sponsor Sanchez. But that was a rarity. We have not seen that in quite some time. Jim Haynes says, well, Riegser, my good buddy, ARCA used to be so good at side. It was, man. Early 2000s ARCA was fantastic. And I'm not sure where the downhill really started. The more, I guess, I don't know. Quality of rides just went down as well. And they really kind of need to get away from I don't want to, talk only about one team, but the Venturini Motorsports deal, that's the issue. I mean, you've got this Toyota stranglehold on the series, and there's not anybody that's been able to do it. You need more of those. If you're going to do it right, you got to get those BJ McLeods or DGMs, those smaller teams, to create these development teams as well. You can't just have the big guys. The problem is there's just not enough dough. Jim Main says, I wonder what the future will hold with KBM becoming Chevys, maybe more available to certain Canadian Chevy car dealers for driver deals. Just a thought. Possibly. I think if that rumor comes true for Montreal next year, 100% you're seeing one of the Pinty's drivers in the Cup race, if that were to happen. 100%. If it's Xfinity, 100% you're getting 1 or 2. I can't see them going to a Cup Series if the Cup Series comes to Montreal that we don't have Tag, we don't have Ranger, maybe Cameron. The money's probably going to be big, but you've got to get those names into that race if it happens. Tim Jones says, was the Xfinity a Lordco Gaunt car? I know I shot the 96 in the duels around that year. I'm not sure. I know it was the 99, but maybe it was a partnership Gaunt BJ McLeod deal. Tim? It definitely was a Lordco. I'm pretty certain it was a Lordco 99. Jim Haynes. I've known Willie Mullins since he was a kid. He's a good guy, fun guy. More power to him and his team. Gotta love the little guys. Honestly, it's like the MBMs, man. The Carl Longs of the world who just fight and fight and fight. And Dexter Stacy's going to have to fight because JJ Yaley's been in that car. And JJ Yaley was... So, Tim, yeah, that was the Cup race, but he also did an Xfinity Series race as well, Tim, with Lordco. I believe it was that 2019. So he did maybe two Cup races with Lordco, and then did the the Xfinity race. But I think it was just the one Xfinity race as well. When it comes to the Cup Series, God, man, we need to get something set up here. I don't know how we do it, but to not have really anybody from the Pinty Series even get close to the Cup Series for years is, I mean, it's not unexpected. But to have a international division, I think that's where NASCAR International is going to be so important. If they want to get some really big eyes, say for Canada, say for Mexico, this is the way you do it. You got to get guys into the Daytona 500. And Jacques Villeneuve finishing 22nd, best result for a Pinty Series driver since 2008. I was looking at, I was going to add Patrick Carpentier. He did not make a Pinty Series start. He made a CASCAR start years ago. But we really haven't had much people in it. I mean, DJ Kennington, I'm going to remember DJ Kennington in 2017 because he made that race and was running and just missed, was just about to miss the big wreck and got clipped right at the end, I believe, by Jimmy Johnson and tore the whole right front off the car. And that was, that hurt so bad to see that. Jacques Villeneuve making the race in 2022 was an absolute highlight, finishing 22nd. I mean, years after failing to make the race in the Bill Davis Racing 27. Great story. But as of right now, we don't have any Pinty Series driver listed for 2023 at the Daytona 500. So maybe at some point we'll see those guys coming into the Pinty Series. Lassard, Labbe. It's tough, man. It is so tough to get your way up there. And I really don't know. We've got definitely... Well, see, that's the thing. Tim says, if some of these drivers and teams are having issues finding their Pinty's adventures, it makes sense that running Cup would be a bigger issue. But then all of a sudden, you do get those guys that do. They run the one big race, and then we don't see them again. I'd prefer to see more guys and gals come and run the Pinty Series more regularly. But again, can you compete? And I don't think you can with the Pinty Series or the Daytona 500 being televised, being that big of an event. Obviously, we've talked about it time and time again. It comes down to the almighty dollar. And the dollar in racing is just ridiculous. The amount of money that you need to spend is stupid. At the same time, if you go back and look at how much DJ Kennington made in some of those races, you go, holy moly, racing itself, you made a lot of money. To make the race at Daytona is one thing. To be competitive is another. Jim Haynes says, NASCAR wanted to combine ARCA and K&N East and West for car counts, but it looks like back to the same low car counts. Very expensive race. Short tracks can't afford anymore. Riggs, I'm convinced that NASCAR purchasing ARCA and the changed composite bodies were the nails in the coffin. I think at the end of the day, we have to remember one thing, and that's partly the issue that I have with a lot of things that NASCAR does. Uh, it's the cost of being NASCAR. All of a sudden, you've got to pay for all your crew members to have a NASCAR license. You got to pay the driver to have a NASCAR license. You have all these additional charges that NASCAR brings into it. It's the same thing with CASCAR. I mean, Tim would know about CASCAR as well. I mean, CASCAR, you had a lot bigger fields, but NASCAR comes in all of a sudden and wants more money for registration fees and wants all your crew members to be paid for as well. All of a sudden, things start to add up. And I mean, at the same time, there was a very successful ladder system in K&N East and West, but unfortunately, once again, it's the regulars that were a part of those series that aren't there anymore. The Mike Davids of the world, the Mike Olsons of the world. It is ridiculous. So let's have Pinty's sponsor a car in the next season for the Pinty's Champ, or if a driver refuses, go down the list until someone does. Tim, that's what I've been hoping for. If it's not the Daytona 500, then maybe it is the Pinty's truck race, the dirt race. One of the things that I'd like to see when they talk about All-Star, the All-Star night, make it an All-Star night. Where's your Mexico champion? Where's your Menards champion? Where's your Craftsman truck champion? Xfinity champion? Put all of those guys plus the international champions into a race. Truly make it the best of the best. Bristol would be my best guess, Tim. But if you're going to do it at North Wilkesboro, that would be a great opportunity to do it. You give me Marc-Antoine Cameron, give me your wheel and modified champ from last year. I believe John McKennedy was the champion. Add in your truck champion. Add in Xfinity champions. K&N East and West and Menards. You get a 10-car race. Put them all in modifieds and run them at Bristol. Done. 10 races, or run them at North Wilkesboro in legend cars. Make something fun out of it, right? I mean, you're giving that appreciation to making it almost like an SRX within NASCAR. Because at the end of the day, we know that it is hard. The Euro champ, absolutely. Euro champ, Mexico champ, bring them up. Give the exposure. Not only that, introduce them to the crowd. That's what I want to see. I want to see Marc-Antoine Cameron getting the accolades on Fox or whoever, if it's Fox or NBC that's broadcasting the All-Star race. Have Mike Joy announce the champions. Showcase the champions from all of NASCAR. Not just the Cup Series and its history. Everything from that past year. Yes, tough because it's in the middle of the season and we get going around that time. But take the opportunity. Make it happen. You've got to reward champions. You don't even broadcast the championship celebrations for the lower divisions. So make something at the biggest event. I mean, it does a lot of good if all of a sudden... Yeah, Jim, I'm just spitballing. Legend cars are one thing, but whatever the case is, maybe you just use production cars. Like the Toyota All-Star Challenge that they used to do at Long Beach. Right? Just have them all run a Camry around the... Well, not Camry because it's... Camry would definitely not be in a Camry, but have them run production cars around it in like some sort of an all-star race. You know? Give me Nick Sanchez, Marc-Antoine Cameron racing against Cup champion Joey Logano. A great opportunity. All of a sudden, you get Ty Gibbs in there. You get Zane Smith in there. I believe Zane Smith won the championship last year, right? All of a sudden, rubbing elbows, right? I would love to have seen LP Dumoulin be able to go in there and have an opportunity at showcasing his talent. When we've talked about this, if you can't get there to the big races, then let's give opportunities for NASCAR International to be recognized. And obviously, there's a lot of things that are probably going to be happening with this new regime in the NASCAR Pinty Series. I don't expect that they're going to be okay for the amount of cars that we've had, for the amount of events, the fans, the issues that the series has had in the past couple of years. I mean, obviously, we're going to be here. We're going to talk about what we like, but there's other things that needs to be addressed. The website needs to be addressed. The timing and scoring needs to be addressed. The lack of merchandise needs to be addressed. There is a lot that still needs to be addressed, but start with showcasing the champion as much as you can. You can't always rely on, and this is the biggest thing, you can't always rely on our own series. NASCAR itself has their main social media. Why not have the NASCAR Twitter showcase the champions, interview the champions, not just NASCAR roots? Because what you're doing is you're minimizing. Essentially. Oh, these are champions, but they're not NASCAR champions. They're NASCAR roots champions. So all of a sudden, one of the things that I really despise about that whole idea is that you're putting our champion in the same category as ARCA. We're not a development series. It's been long. It's been a long time that we've been in NASCAR ownership. 2007, it's now 2023. You can't all of a sudden expect and still think of us as an ARCA series for Canada. I think our races are a lot better than ARCA races. At the end of the day, who do we impress? Got to impress on the ratings. You got to impress partners. I mean, if you go and you put up the broadcast that Joe Robinson and Fuel Media Lab put up, definitely is impressive. Do I think it's better than the ARCA product? Probably. There's definitely a lot that they have to consider, though. When you have people that still don't know what the Pinty Series is and they're turning to Matt Weaver, and that's not a shot at Matt Weaver, but they don't know who to contact. They don't know who to talk about. They don't know who to talk to. The series needs to get more. Guys like GeForce TV, that's what we need. We're not just tooting the horn because we're on live here on GeForce TV every Monday at 7 p.m. for the Power Hour. But at the end of the day, the more eyes on your product, the better. I love that GeForce TV was able to broadcast the time trials and the heats from Washoukan Speedway last year. The practices. It helps the product out a lot. I mean, one of the things that I would love to be able to have is the practices and qualifying on a live stream. I mean, you've seen it. Even just something as simple as a radio stream would be great. I'd be at a racetrack. I'll do an audio stream. I have no problem doing that. If they need somebody that will do it, I'll do it. Not an issue. What really helps ARCA is John Menard keeps pumping them with money and advertising. It's absolutely true. He's got some great partners there. But, of course, we have to look at one thing, too, here. And that is that we have a really great Pinty's sponsorship that's been signed on for 5 years. Al says to get new race fans, there needs to be a lot more advertising, print ads, and social media. I wouldn't say print ads anymore. Not in 2023. Print ads aren't really the way to go. I think social media is the way to go. And social media is so important because not a ton of people read the newspaper anymore. That's the reality of it. But a lot of people look at their phones. You have to remember, though, it's within a budget. NASCAR will allot a budget to the team. How many people got the free tickets at Canadian Tire for CASCAR? That was NASCAR as well. That wasn't. And that was the track, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't the series that did that. Tim Gerald says, every minute the cars are on track increases the ability for sponsor names to be seen, hopefully increasing the odds that sponsors would be more adept to be involved in the series. It's true. I think there needs to be more of a presence, though, Tim, as well. You need to have drivers on social media. They need to be active on social media. There's a lot of Pinty's drivers that do absolutely nothing on social media. Cam Thompson, Cam Jr. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming in, buddy. Cam Thompson's a perfect example of a racer that's trying to get out there, get his name known. That was about TV coverage for practice. I would do it, Tim. I'm of the old, maybe the old generation. Speed Channel used to give me practice in qualifying. I loved that because that was just more content. You're sure if the race was crappy, at least I got to see the cars go around in practice and I got to see if something crazy happened. But I tell you, like Cam Thompson's a perfect example. Young racers, they have to do that. They have to be all over social media. And we've talked about that at the racetrack. And he's talked about how hard it is. And he's got a famous last name in Canada with Thompson. It's the reality is, and I mean, I'm finding this while working for the Ontario Sportsman Series. You see Chester's joining me in for part of the chat here. It's not a handshake deal anymore. You have to provide something. Broadcasting for an hour is not enough. And that might sound crazy, but you need to be all over your social media. You need to get likes. You need to put out content. Guys like Ryan Dyson in the Quick Superstock series, constantly putting out content. Garrett Teemersma putting out content. You have to. Carson Nagy constantly putting out content. You have to do it. And unfortunately, there's so many people that just want to take a check and do nothing. Jim Haynes says it right there. Hey, if it wasn't for the show, I never would have recognized Kyle at PRI. So all social media really matters. This is one of the things that's new as well. Like, we didn't have shows like this where we'd be talking about this type of stuff week in and week out. Right, Jim? So now all of a sudden, that's why we want to do this type of stuff. The idea is to have, now we're still working kinks out, but eventually we'll have interviews with drivers on this program. More and more time that you get to learn about these drivers, talk about their partners, talk about who gets them to the racetrack. Partners are going to look at that and go, hey, I like that. Guys like Trayton Lapsevich, Kyle Steckley, they're very well spoken. Very, very well spoken. One thing DJ Kennington never forgets when he does an interview is talking about Castrol Edge, Brian Cathcart, Spark Power. He just names them off like it's nothing. One thing that's different though is you don't see DJ a lot on social media. I mean, he's got a Castrol deal. He's pretty much set, right? But Trayton Lapsevich, Kyle Steckley, marketing gold there, and they're so well spoken. So to have them be able to talk about your product, Trayton Lapsevich did that for D-Box in Germany when he attended the the video gaming show or whatever it was there, the expo. He's somebody that you get behind. He's starting to get out comfortable on that social media, get himself out there, do little videos, do little things because it gets viewers. All of a sudden now, if I'm doing this show and I'm wearing Pinties on here, and then I'm wearing G-Force, and then I'm wearing this and I'm wearing that, all of a sudden every view, somebody is seeing that. All of a sudden, they tie that into two together. I mean, for me with race cars, I used to look into when I would see some of these paint schemes, I'd actually look up what the sponsor was because sometimes I have no idea. That's part of the attraction. One thing I think that would help really well in our series is if we did have Canadian branded stuff. So specifically when we're talking about Canadian brands, you're talking Canadian Tire, you're talking Tim Hortons. I'm shooting really big here, but you see the key here. The new Young Guns, for the most part, are the social media hot stuff. They are. That's exactly it, Tim. And if you're not utilizing your social media, you're losing out on potential partners. I mean, I have talked with countless companies about coming into racing, and it's all about demographics. What are your numbers? What are your followers? What? And you need to have stats. You can't go to them and say, oh, I don't have social media. I've thought there's so many commercials, there's so many little videos that you could put out on Instagram with products. I said, there's lots of great stuff. Maybe a track offers sponsors a table to promote product. Absolutely. You can't always ask for money. You've got to provide something. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, right, Tim? I mean, some guys they've learned, but there's other guys that you see nothing. And that's the new age. Got to be out there. It is a full-time job. Promoting, full-time job, talking about your sponsors. And that's the end of the day. Sponsorship is not an attractive word. We've talked about this time and time again. The reason why you can't get up and go to the Daytona 500 tomorrow is because you need the money to get there. I mean, we've had some amazing partners that have joined in our racing community over the years, especially names like Quick Wick. At least on the Pinty Series side. RGC Sports coming in. A perfect guy, and he's been talked about this since he came into the series. Tagliani. He knows how to get value. LP Dumoulin, same thing. Can't totally agree with you, but I'd like to put this thought out there. Maybe do something like the awards in Nashville, but here with all the Pinty Series teams, I'd love that again. YTW, they used to do it. Tim Gerald, I pushed Hockey PR to get a list of compiled of players' social media links. 1,000%. That's what I want to see. To get this is an idea to get the series to request this to be done. Where it's posted doesn't matter as long as it's having lists. 1,000% agree. People complain, and I see it all the time in the group. Why is it only Quebec drivers? Why? Where's the Ontario drivers? I'll tell you where. They're behind. You have to be meeting expectations. When you look at LP Dumoulin, you look at Cameron, Ranger, maybe they don't do their own social media, but there's social media that they do very well. Dumoulin's are the biggest thing. Constantly promoting WeatherTech. If it's not them, their team is. Same with Paille Racing. Constantly promoting. You have to do it. Have to do it. Otherwise, there's not a company that's going to be interested if you can't provide a return of investment to them. Unless you were there just taking money right out of their pockets and utilizing it just for yourself. Jim Haynes says the meet and greets with a car present is way more important than the teams realize. It is. And that's the thing too, Tim. They do press releases. They do videos. They have their guys going on talk shows and all sorts of other things. Rick says, I know I am late, but back in the NASCAR days, a lot of companies you have talked about were in the series. Absolutely. Advertising is an expense now. And Rick, the other thing is they don't have the budget that they used to have for advertising. I mean, like you said, Tim Hortons, Harm Hardware, Ford, Mopar. Where are any of those right now? I mean, Canadian Tire is the most, I guess, well-known of those. Tim Hortons is, I mean, I think a lot of the corporate world too is to get corporate approval is exceptionally hard. Exceptionally hard because you have to go through so many channels to get it. Whereas it's a lot easier if you get a local business because they don't have to go through that. Can't get the local Ford dealer to come up with $75 to sponsor. It's a matter of what are they going to get out of it. Every business is hurting nowadays, and that's the other side of it. Are they going to go and spend all the money out there on a Pinty Series car or a hockey team? Well, Owl Mopar is actually not involved in Pinty's, and they haven't been for the last couple of years, unfortunately. They pulled out during the pandemic in 2020, so they're not. Castrol, WeatherTech, still around. You need to find out which CEOs like racing, then go after those companies. I would say so, Tim. Not just the guys that like racing, but just to introduce them to you. I mean, how many race car drivers are on LinkedIn? I'm on LinkedIn myself, and all of a sudden, you're scrolling down and you see CEO of this Canadian company. Send a direct message. Why not? The course of action that I see all over social media has been, I'm looking for a sponsor. If you know anybody, let me know. No. You want to go out and be a racer. You want to go out and do this all summer long and have funding. You get your ass in gear. You write letters. You send messages. And you prepare the hell out of a pitch. You can't just do this. You can't. It's tough in this climate because we aren't an all-time racing place. It just doesn't work. I agree with Owl's comment here wholeheartedly, and that is the problem with the Pinty Series is NASCAR's treatment of the Pinty Series as minor league. Where I think that's going to shift, Owl, is what was announced earlier. I think it was the end of last year, early this year maybe. NASCAR International is now handling NASCAR Pinty Series. It's no longer NASCAR Down South. That could bode very well for this series because all of a sudden now it's not being dealt with by people that don't really have a vested interest in this series. NASCAR Down South, let's be honest, did not have an interest in building this series. They have an interest in their top 3 divisions down there, pushing mostly Cup. Jim Haynes says, Mopar is now owned by an international company. There you go. And that's the same thing with Tim Hortons, right? If you're going to go and get Tim Hortons, you're not going to be getting corporate. You're going to be having to get somebody that owns a Tim Hortons itself. Business to business, man. That's the thing. Business to business. That's why a team like EHR is somebody who I feel would be very successful at getting partners. I don't know how much they do it, but NASCAR's International is still down south, but their headquarters is in Daytona. Yes, absolutely, Owl. What I'm saying is like a different division that's now handling it, one that's only focused on the international side of things. So they only handle us, they handle Mexico, they handle Europe. So I think it's just better to refer as NASCAR International as Daytona. Fair enough. Maybe that's a target for 2023. For the upper management to get some CEOs out to races. I think Tony Spiteri, that's the type of guy that can do that. All about the future. I'm sure that the team has plans and ideas. In my opinion, Tony isn't the guy to let things slide. No, he hasn't. He's already told us. He's got plans. But you know what, Tim? He's not the only one. I think we're doing the same. You know, I think by building a reputation of a show like this, where we as a community are now coming together to talk about it, more people get involved. More people are talking about it. The fact that we still have people listening past the time that we're supposed to be finished is a good thing. It's about the motivation too. We aren't dead here. We have a lot of potential. That's right, Owl. That article was posted about potentially the Cup Series coming up here. Exactly. NASCAR's main focus is always going to be Cup. It's always about selling the Sunday product. That's why having NASCAR International here in charge is better than having those who were focused in charge of the Cup Series and the top 3 divisions. It's not going to work that way. Now, again, at the end of the day, Sherry Putnam might be retired, but Sherry Putnam still has contacts. Sherry Putnam can still talk about how great the Pinty Series is. She can still be a cheerleader for this series. Now you add Tony Spiteri. Tony Spiteri has tons of contacts being a CEO in the world, not just of Canada, but in the world. He's got contacts. With the new regime atop the Pinty Series, will make a big difference that he can show the series is a marketing. Absolutely. Tim Gerald, Mopar is Stellantis. Okay, the only talk about Dodge I've read lately is Peugeot, Stellantis owned, building an IMSA car and branding it as Dodge. So Stellantis is Canadian. Stellantis has, well, I mean, at least we have a Canadian branch. So Mopar could not possibly be dead if it's being done through Stellantis. We would just need Stellantis to be involved. Whether they are, that's a hard sell, I think. We know Dodge is really invested in doing electric vehicles, specifically with Dodges. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm going to throw this out there. Nissan. I'm not suggesting that I want it, but Nissan has the Sentra Cup. Could there be a future? Because they're already involved in motorsports. They have their own branded series. Could there be something else? Possible other manufacturer support. Already talked about Dodge. Toyota is still not dead, apparently. It's still around. I don't know what happens, what becomes of it, but why not partner up with somebody like a Venturini Motorsports, get a Toyota team up here. Venturini, listen. Caden Lapsevich. Toyota. Venturini. Bring them together. Experimental TRD number 55 Pinty Series Venturini Motorsports. Have it run in conjunction with Fastline. I don't think that Jeff and Jim really want to come back and run Fastline race motorsports again, but have it in conjunction with WMI. All of a sudden, you've got a TRD factory team in Canada, and you've got a TRD employee as the driver working with Venturini Motorsports. Have an opportunity. Share information. TRD, Nissan, options. Don't have to stay with what we've been doing lately. You got the Ford Mustangs. Obviously, got to get more Ford Canada support. I think you're going to see that from the Quebec side. Definitely with Shelby. A lot of influence in the Pinty Series. I think you should start experimenting with the schedule a little bit. This could include a stadium race in Toronto, for example. Now, so Tony is only a part of who puts the schedule together. There is a crew of people that put it together. I think there's big things coming for 2024, if I'm being honest. I would expect Granby is going to be a part of that. I don't know after what Joel said last week if Riverside really is, but I know that there are some names within Quebec definitely that are involved in wanting to make sure that the 2024 schedule adds some races, potentially has some new places to go to. Some places that I thought would never be an option, possibly being talked about as well. I think the other thing you got to make sure is you get some more teams. MBS Motorsports is doing it the right way by getting a guy like Brian Ellis, having a racer, that veteran racer like Daniel Bois, really impressive in their first season. Then again, Jacasa could also, considering the track is being maintained. Jacasa is the horse that won't die. I would love to say that it's going to come back, but I honestly haven't heard anything. I mean, Tim, that's the thing, right? A TRD development driver car put their drivers in for, say, CTMP and others like Gregson and others did before. Absolutely. Especially if you're going to have the opportunity, if you've got stuff happening at Montreal, it's a great opportunity to do that. I don't think that you don't take that. I think a guy like Billy Venturini and Venturini Motorsports, with the success that they've had, Jacasa is rumored to be sold very soon. Are we talking sold to be closed and demolished, Owl? Because it's been talked about since it closed initially in 2020. So I haven't heard anything new. It's literally been that same stalemate. But yeah, I think a development team. I talked about before, adding OSS as some sort of a development series for, hey, WMI, RGC Sports, Team 3 Red. Great opportunities to continue to build it. It's just a matter of trying to get more and more partnerships involved, and we got to keep at it. That's going to do it for us tonight here on the NASCAR Pinty Series Power. We went over the number tonight, 15 minutes over the number. If you haven't already, join the NASCAR Pinty Series community page. Yes, only get your info from Alex, Tim. That is absolutely true. Only get it from Alex Nagy. He is the only one that knows the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you haven't already, give us a like. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, GeForce TV, of course. Once again, GeForce, your home for Race Rebels, Race Chat, and the APC series coming back live. Once again, Oshweekend Speedway Weekly on Fridays. If you haven't already, join the Stickers and Scuffs podcast group on Facebook as well. Do a bunch of great interviews with all sorts of Canadian racing icons. We really appreciate all your support each and every week. I have got no voice left, so that's great. Appreciate all of you guys. We'll catch you next week here on G.